Hi everyone, welcome back to Farrand on Film. Today we are bringing you a tier list, so you should be able to see the screen and our very, very tiny cameras and all that kind of stuff. I'm joined by Ollie, and for the first time by Michael. Some of you listening to this may know Mr. Naylor as Mr. Naylor, and it will still remain. But for us, he will be known as Michael. How are you both doing, Michael?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. Uh, just relaxing into the summer.
Very nice. Oliver?
I'm great, other than my back hurting because of Gran Turismo, because of the
That's not
seats
what
we were
happens
sat
when
on.
you watch the film. That's what happens when you get there a little bit later and the only seats that are free are the first two rows.
Yeah, and you're there watching it like this, just
Yeah.
your head tilted off onto the distance.
Yeah.
Hooray for 30s.
So what we're going to do today is we're going to go through essentially a list of, and it's not all of them, it's not an exhaustive list of films that are based on video games. Now, what I've not included are the umpteen sequels to Resident Evil, because who's got time to go through all of them?
Also, they'd all be fail.
Yes, I've not gone too hard into Uwe Balls' pantheon of crap.
Yeah, you've not got like
again,
Postal on there, have
would
you?
be here all day. And I've also not included stuff like Wreck-It Ralph. There was a tier list that I found yesterday that someone had made where they'd included like Ready Player One and stuff like that. None of that.
They're not video game
based
movies.
off a video game, yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's more of like an ensemble thing, isn't it? Ready Player One.
yeah,
It's like
I mean, I love it. I think it's great, but
What's that Gerard Butler, Michael C. Hall film called as well?
Gamer. What do you mean? What's it
Gamer.
called? Number 10 on my
I
crap you
don't
love
know.
list. What do you mean? What's it called?
Exactly, it was in crap you love for a
Exactly.
reason. Like, but yeah, that would be a video game movie by that logic, and it just isn't. So
Yeah, it would be here all day if we did stuff
Yeah.
like that. There's a Frankie Muniz film from like 2005 called Stay Alive, where they all get sucked into a video game and killed. It's a horror film. It would be here all day. So one thing that I wanted to do though before we get started on the games is just a sort of brief patted history of you and video games. Like, where did it start for you? What was your first console? What are the sort of touchstones? Go on then, Ollie, if you want to kick us off.
So officially, because I did play my dad's Mega Drive quite a bit. That was my first experience playing games. It was mainly Sonic the Hedgehog 2. But my first console was the original PS1, with, to this day, the best boot-up sound of any console. Fight me. And the four games I had, like the first four games I got with it, were the original Crash Bandicoot, the original Spyro the Dragon, the original Rayman, and the original Tomb Raider.
Nice.
And yeah, and that just kicked off. I then had a PS2. Too many games on that to count. Then I went over to Xbox 360 because I fell in love with Halo. And then I came back to PS4 just cause I can't remember why I went to that, but I ended up getting like Ghost of Tsushima as an exclusive off the back of that, and I'm like, yeah, buzzing, champion.
Michael?
Kind of similar. I started more SNES, the original Super Mario Brothers. Again, then went to the Sega Mega Drive, PlayStation 1, 2, similar, then over to Xbox because of Halo. And then I was old enough to get a job, and I just always had everything. So I've got like PlayStation, I've got Xbox, I've got my gaming PC, and it's just, yeah, I could do like 11 podcasts just on my history of gaming, to be honest. I already mentioned earlier, like, I love World of Warcraft. Currently getting my sister into World of Warcraft because she was like, oh, I want to try World of Warcraft. I was like, okay, this is going to be a life now, forever. So yeah, I like just.
That's the thing. MMORPGs terrify me.
Oh yeah, they take over your life completely. I'm playing like 5 of them, so like, because I've got World of Warcraft, I've got Destiny 2 on the go, bit of Elder Scrolls Online.
Oh God!
Wow. I'm similar. Mega Drive was my first console. Started out with Sonic 2. Then worked back.
And Aladdin. I forgot about Aladdin.
Yes, Aladdin, Lion King.
Sick game.
Yeah. I got a PlayStation, Christmas '97. My first two games, I think included in the bundle, were Star Gladiator. If anyone remembers Star Gladiator, it was basically like Tekken. and Offside, which was essentially an early version of FIFA. And then my dad got me Tekken 2 and Tomb Raider 2. So it was all go from there. PS2, Xbox 360. I made the jump to 360, probably similar time to you, Ollie. Just this was around. Well, PlayStation 2 was really when I sort of fell in love with Splinter Cell. One of my
Oh my
favorite
God,
games
Splinter Cell,
of all
yes.
time. Absolutely adore it. I
Isn't there
just
meant
wish
to be a film of that in the works?
yeah, I just wish that they'd do something with it again because it's been 10 years now since Blacklist, and I'm waiting for something. Even if I'll take a remaster, I'll take a remaster. It's fine. I was then on Xbox One, and towards the end of my time with my Xbox One, I was a bit like, look at all them games on PlayStation that I can't play. So I've now got a PS5. And it absolutely changed my life when I played Last of Us and Last of Us 2 back to back, because those are the best games I've ever played and will ever play, and just adore them. Yeah. And we all know how I feel about Last of Us because there's about 14 podcasts on this channel about it between me and Oliver. So there you go. Right. So we're going to kick off. We're going to get started with this now. Ollie has already admitted that he hasn't seen Warcraft.
Yeah.
I caught up with it the other day, but I'm going to defer this to Michael, who is the World of Warcraft fan.
Our war man.
Yes, enjoyed the film, I think.
I did. I think it's good overall. It's like as I said earlier, the biggest issue and the only issue, really, for me, real issue, is the fact they have the prosthetic tusks for all the orcs, and the actors are very clearly struggling to speak. They're struggling to be understood by each other. I think the CGI for the magic is top tier. Similar to the D&D movie, it just looks fantastical. It looks magical, and you kind of like, oh yeah, he's really powerful, and you can tell because of the magic he's using. I think there was a bit of fan service, so we enjoy, like those of us who played the game, like, oh, this is Khadgar when he was younger. That's great. So we can see him before he was this wise old wizard guiding us around. Yeah, I was always really sad. I think it was the wrong story to make a movie on. I think they have better stories that they could have based movies on. And I think they did too much of, let's try and make this movie for everyone, not just for the fans. But anyone who's not a fan isn't coming watching Warcraft. Yeah. It's a well-known nerdy franchise. Anyone's going, oh, it's World of Warcraft. I'm not going watching that. It's not for me. So there's no point trying to appeal to everybody when they're not going to come.
Same time, Dungeons and Dragons seemed to do better, didn't it? Off the
Dungeons
back
and Dragons was, yeah, I think it was fantastic. I think they did a good job of getting a really good casting, though. They got people that would go watch, like Chris Pine and
Regé-Jean Page,
Michelle Rodriguez.
Yeah, we got Hugh Grant playing his. Yeah, and I just think people would go to see those guys, and it looked really fun in the trailers. You know, it didn't look like a film that was taking itself too seriously. Whereas Warcraft was, here's a big fantasy epic, come and watch it. And if you weren't a fantasy epic fan or a Warcraft fan, you weren't going to go and watch it.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a first. As much as my personal love of it is like, I think if I take my look at it objectively, I'd say it's an okay-ish 2-1.
Okay.
That's from a fan. I mean, if you're not a fan, it's going to be lower down than that. But for someone who enjoys Warcraft, I would say it's
we are deferring to you, so it can live into.
I'm happy for it. I mean, especially since I've not seen it. I got the vibe as well. It really tried to do the there's bad guys everywhere thing. Like it's not just this side bad, which is quite nice.
And that comes from the game, really, and that like there are good orcs as bad orcs, as good humans as bad humans.
Yeah.
And it did a decent job of that, and it set up the rest of the story quite well with the kind of Moses-esque story that they have for Fall, and he travels down the river in the basket. But I don't know. I just feel that if they'd have stuck to here's a movie for the fans, it would have been better. And it did really well overseas. It just didn't do well in Europe and America.
Do you reckon that was the original plan, but a studio got involved and said no?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, some exec definitely came in and like, who's Khadgar? I need to know who the Kirin-Tor are.
Because it's Duncan Jones, isn't it, who directed it?
It is Duncan Jones, man. Duncan Jones.
And he strikes me as someone who would also be a World of Warcraft fan. I might be speculating there, but he strikes me as the kind of guy who would like make this as a bit of a passion project, even though it is a big studio thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can do it like if we go back to the D&D movie, they did a really good job with the sorcerer who, like, he had to believe in himself to cast his spells. Now, if you like D&D, you know that's because the spell casting stat for sorcerers is charisma. If you don't like D&D, that still makes sense. Like, oh, he believes in himself now. That's a standard fantasy trope.
Yeah.
So they did a really good job of it, I think, there. But maybe Warcraft was just a bit too early.
Maybe.
It felt like this walked so that like The Witcher could run.
Yeah.
Well,
From the
I
vibes
think
that I got.
the Witcher ran into a wall, didn't it? It ran.
It ran into a wall because
ran.
they decided, like, Henry Cavill got shafted by Warner Brothers. That's by the by, though. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Deep breath. Super Mario Brothers 1993.
Jesus.
See, I think this is like, like The Room. Is it called The Room? Or
Yeah,
Room?
yeah.
But it's like
I know what you mean.
so bad, it's actually kind of fun. And it's kind of like it's
I would
just
agree.
it's an insane film from start to finish. Like every decision, you're like, why? Why did you do this?
Yeah.
It is entertainingly bad, I'll give it that.
It is one of them, like you say, with The Room, where you can't fathom how somebody managed to make a film so bad, which is why
Nintendo were heavily involved in this.
Yeah.
Really heavily involved with this, and that's what came out of it.
It's
Danny
so
DeVito
bizarre.
cast as Mario just because he's short. I'm like, oh, Mario's short.
Hoskins.
Danny DeVito's short.
Oh yeah, Bob Hoskins.
Oh, is it Bob Hoskins? Is it not Danny DeVito?
It's Bob Hoskins, yeah.
Oh, then I'm totally wrong. I thought it was Danny DeVito. That's
John
how long it's been since I've watched
Leguizamo
this.
was Luigi.
Michael Cena's
Luigi's got this
different, though.
relationship with Daisy, and
Yeah.
Yoshi's a dinosaur, like a proper, like weirdly realistic looking dinosaur for the time. Dennis Hopper as Bowser, like it's bizarre.
But he wasn't really Bowser, was he? He was like
He was King Koopa,
a bad nightclub owner. You know what I mean? Like in Bad Boys 2, you've got that Russian nightclub owner. He basically was that character, but in the Mario universe.
It's like they've gone, how do we ground Mario? I know, we're gonna do this.
How do we make Mario gritty and realistic?
Yeah. Screw you, Christopher Nolan. We're ahead of our time. No,
Bob Hoskins has got some incredible story, or he's been interviewed about it. He had some incredible stories about like making that film. He just said, like, as you can imagine, he just says it was like a dumpster fire behind the scenes as well.
Yeah.
Like,
realistically,
it's got to be a fail on it.
Yeah,
as much as it's entertaining to watch, it can't.
I would argue, just on the idea of it being entertaining, it deserves to be in a third.
But did it not fail to set out what it was going to do?
Because it did take it seriously. It wasn't set out to be a joke. They were like, here's a real...
Oh, yeah, I agree. But, like, there are some, like, just in the interest of tearing it, there are some films that come up that are bad, but they're not even entertaining in how they're bad. This is at least something you can go back and watch and be like, this is hilarious how bad it is.
Okay.
And how it is bad as well. Like, and there was effort put into it, clearly.
You go third.
Yeah, I'm not willing to die on the hill of it, but it's just, I think there are some things that come up later which are just creatively bankrupt as well as also being like bad films, whereas this is just a bad film.
Because we have got vetoes as well, but Ollie sort of said he doesn't think that he's going to end up using.
If you two overruled me on this, I would not fight it. I agree.
No, I mean, I wouldn't. I think there's only one film on the list that I do think I need to use mine for, maybe two, but that's max, you know.
Yeah.
Right, I've not seen this one. There's a good few now that we're about to get into that I've not seen.
I've seen Final Fantasy Spirits Within.
I haven't seen it. Michael?
It's an interesting one because this one isn't actually based on any of the games.
No.
But then all the Final Fantasy games also aren't linked. So it's a film made in the style of a Final Fantasy story, which is essentially just a standard JRPG storyline. It's quite good. It's not amazing, but as an animated film,
I hated this.
Did you hate it? I think if you're used to that kind of storyline. Sorry, go on.
No, I am, because of like I know it's not exactly the same, but I know that kind of Japanese storytelling element comes in with stuff like Metal Gear Solid. You know, that kind of massive, huge, very deep themes and stuff like that. I just thought I hated all of the shtick behind you know, the virtual actor that they were going for with this. The idea that what was her name? Because I know it's Ming-Na Wen voicing her, but they gave that computer model a name, and she was going to be an actress that popped up in films. And we had virtual actors that were going to pop up in films and revolutionize how we watch films. It was just no. And like Ming-Na Wen's the only performance with any, like everyone else, you can just tell is just there for a paycheck. I love Steve Buscemi. He's terrible in this. I like Alec Baldwin as an actor. He's terrible in this. And it's quite ugly. I know it's probably not the fault of the film, but they really try and lean on this technology before it's ready to be leaned on.
I think it's also because they're using. It is a Final Fantasy film made by basically the guys responsible for Final Fantasy CGI, which on a games console has always looked amazing. They've always been a little bit ahead of the time, but compared to actual animated movies, it's just never been. It's never been as good. Because with animated movies, you kind of
like and like the Final Fantasy games have always like I've never got that into them. Like big RPG games have never been my thing. But one thing I have enjoyed about Final Fantasy is like it's one of those films you'd happily watch a playthrough of if you're into stories like that. But it looks incredible and it looks very vibrant. It's very imaginative. This is just like any other weird space apocalypse. Like if you slapped a Mass Effect logo on this instead of Final Fantasy, that would still work.
I mean, it's not as good as the actual, because they made a Final Fantasy VII movie as well, didn't they? It's set after Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah,
which
and
is
like
more because the characters are already fleshed out. They've already got personalities that don't need to be set up. You do need to have watched played the game to understand the film, which is a bit of an issue, I guess. Whereas with this is a standalone thing. I think it's one of the things. If you like that Japanese storytelling, it's all right. It's enjoyable. You can watch it. You'd never watch it twice, but you'd sit through it and go, "Oh, it's all right." But if you don't like that,
I think there's better examples of that Japanese storytelling as well.
Oh, yeah, so yeah,
like,
it's
way better examples of that.
Probably, it's not going up into 2-2 or 2-1 for me. But I also don't think it's a third. I think it's kind of like it's all right. You know, you would sit, you'd watch it, and you won't be blown away by it. But it's not. I'm not going to cry over it either. You know.
I could happily put this in fail. You know.
Really? Contention.
I could put this in fail. And one bit that really sticks out. I know this is good. This is a nitpick, but like Donald Sutherland's character uses the phrase "as you know," and I hate that phrase in films because it means they need a lazy reason to get some exposition across to the audience. But if the people he is saying that to in the film know that already, why is he saying it again? Do you know what I mean?
Are we splitting the difference and putting it in a third?
I could happily put it in a third. I think I want to make sure that I know you're probably not ranking it yet, but Super Mario Brothers is better than this.
I'll put it underneath Super Mario Brothers just to make you feel better. There you go. Yeah. So a couple that I've not seen. Dead or Alive? Anyone seen Dead or Alive?
I've not seen Dead or Alive.
But let me quickly look it up. I don't think I have seen this one.
I feel was Holly Valance in it?
I'll get it in fail. If it's got Holly Valance in it.
There's a mid-noughties name for you.
No, I don't. It seems to be. Oh, Holly Valance, isn't it? Yeah, apparently.
Winner.
I have not seen
the trailer.
Yeah.
Right. I think not a clue, mate.
Not a clue, mate.
That's not a clue, mate.
Blood Rain.
Oh.
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
It's awful. This is an Uwe Boll film, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
It's got his grubby little fingerprints all over it. It's bizarre.
The game's also not incredible. In fact, I got a bit of a cult following, but I don't think the storyline from the game's massively strong, is it? It's just here's a really
quite like the gameplay
character.
Yeah, that was mainly it. But there's not a single. Like, the closest you've got to a good acting performance in this is Ben Kingsley. And it's so obvious when you watch it that he was basically paid by the line. Because he appears, he's the main villain, and he appears in the film so little. Like, so it's just obvious that, like, because he's like by far and away the biggest name in this. Because you've got Michael Madsen's in this as well, Billy Zane's in it, Michelle Rodriguez. I forget the name of what's the name of the woman who plays the TX in Terminator 3?
Claire Danes.
Not Claire Danes, the other one. Hang on, I'll give her a googs. What's her name? Kristana Loken.
Nothing like Claire Danes then.
Yeah, nothing like Claire Danes. So she plays Rain. You got Udo Kier in it as well. You've got some like recognizable names.
Is this because it was an early Uwe ball before anyone realised what actually was going on with these films?
Yeah, and just it's some of the production value looks like okay, but like the swords all look like they're made out of plastic. Like if you look up spoiler alert, I guess, Michael Madsen's character dies. Look up his death scene. It's one of the funniest things ever. Because so he's being held like this, his arms held apart. Ben Kingsley just walks towards him with a sword like this and like stabs him.
Like the Austin Powers steamroller.
Yeah, he looks so disinterested in the fact that he's being run through with a sword.
I fail then.
It's a fail. Like it's
Michael,
so
do you
bad.
feel strongly about it at all?
Be honest, I've not seen it, but like, yeah, if that's I'm not going to argue about it.
So bad.
Fine. Monster Hunter.
Shrug.
Yeah, I think like I've seen like clips of it, but I've not seen the whole thing. It's just going to be a standard Mia Jovovich film, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like.
Okay. Lara Croft Tomb Raider. This is the Angelina Jolie Tomb Raider.
The Angelina Jolie one.
Yeah.
Right.
We'll get to Ms. Vakanda later.
I don't know, it's one of those things. I remember watching it at the time and being like, how old was I when this came out? I wasn't that old.
It's like 2002, I think, or 2001.
Yeah, so I'm like in high school at the time. And I remember
I would have
kind
been
of like thinking,
11-ish, yeah.
This is like a good film. But I think anything Angelina Jolie had been in at the time, I would have been like, this is a great film. I mean, like, it wouldn't have mattered. Whereas I think if I watched it again now, when I think back to the plot and the sequel to it as well, it was just very basic. It wasn't really linked to the games. I know they then made games based on this more action-heavy character. But that was more, we're making more action games now. But it just wasn't. Because Tomb Raider before that, it was all about problem solving and getting stuck, not like going shooting like with twin handguns and stuff. And I don't know. It was just, it was a generic action
handguns,
film.
to be fair to her.
She did, yeah, but I think like just when you get stuck in that bit on the level where the tiger's there and you like, jump.
Do a roll in the air.
There's no locking a butler in a freezer. There's none of that kind of stuff,
There's no jumping towards the wrong wall for
doing a swan dive.
There's no awkwardly turning around because it's got those awful tank controls that every 3D game was trying to do.
We have to
PS1.
jump back and pivot. Lara Croft is doing a 3-point turn. Hang on.
If you hold down the walk button, I won't go over the edge.
My gut is to go 2-2, and I wonder if that's fueled by nostalgia. You want to put it up?
I think this film really has some genuinely fantastic elements in it.
Okay.
Genuinely. Like, I know we're kind of joking about, anything that had Angelina Jolie in it at the time, I'd go and watch. Man. I actually really like her realization of Lara. It's different from what we see in the games, but I don't think that's a problem. Like, different isn't bad. I like that she's kind of a weird daredevil thrill seeker. Like, she gets excited by the idea of, going on the hunt, going on the chase and stuff like that. I love the relationship between her and Ian Glenn's character, the villain. The kind of, they're like toying with each other and they have friendly banter, but they do have this back and forth of ultimately they want to kill each other, but they're both coy about it. That's really good.
My only concern with it being the 2-1 is where that then means Cradle of Life ends up. and where that then means the Canada version turns up.
I mean, fine, but I, I've not seen Warcraft, so I can't compare it to that. But I think that it's certainly a film I'm happy to go back and watch, and I have gone back and watched. It's quite funny as well. Like the supporting cast are quite good. Like her nerdy guy, who I know is in Game of Thrones. Her butler, who is what's his name from Red Dwarf. Daniel Craig putting on a weird American accent is a bit off-putting, but
I think for me the big thing is like, is it a video game movie or is it just an action film that they slapped the Tomb Raider kind of? Because it could be, you could have called that anything. You could have called it, you know, Sarah Jones, archaeologist.
Yeah,
you know, I think that's the big. There was nothing in there that made me think, oh, this is a Tomb Raider film. This is like the Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, she was called Lara Croft. She was, and I think, and I gotta say, then they did pivot the games to that kind of character, so it did inspire the next generation of the games, and they were quite good in their own right. They weren't incredible, but they were all right. So I mean, I don't think it's a third. Don't get me wrong; it's an enjoyable action film, but I just feel that it's a bit generic for me. I feel like there's loads of action films that are as good as that.
Yeah.
That could have also been as tenuously linked to Tomb Raider.
I think I'm 2-2.
All right.
Yeah?
Yeah, fine. I'm not going to veto it. Like, I'm not that passionate about Lara.
He's not that passionate about
Tomb Raider. Well, I think it does get a bit of a bad rap when they're like, because I agree, like it is fairly generic for an action film. It does have a couple of problem-solving elements in it as well. Like not many, certainly compared to the. But let's be real, you wouldn't make a game that's all about those problem-solving elements anyway. Because I think it's almost like they tried to do that with Indiana Jones and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and that was horrible. Like that was so boring. Like yeah, they leaned on the action, and like you said, like a lot of those later Tomb Raider games and like the newest generation of Tomb Raider games have been very action orientated, and they are fantastic.
They're really good games.
Yeah.
I love the recent Tomb Raider games; they're unbelievable.
I'm gonna skip over Need for Speed just so that we can do Cradle of Life because I think that might make more sense. Because I think this is a massive drop down from the first one.
Yes, huge drop down.
Absolutely.
And it's very boring. And I say that having watched it for the first time as a 13-year-old or whatever it was. Like if you're boring me at 13, like you ain't winning many, you know.
Yeah.
Because I'm tempted to argue fail for that.
No, it's not even an argument. It's fair.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm pretty sure I like paused it and went for my tea halfway through the film. Like, which if it was a good film, I wouldn't have done.
You got better yet? Nope. yeah. Just it didn't go well. Need for Speed, I've not seen.
I've not seen.
I haven't either, but I mean, I'm pretty sure it's going to be just because it was made around time Fast and Furious 2 was coming out.
Aaron Paul.
It is.
It's Aaron Paul, and then the one thing that intrigued me the most is that Michael Keaton plays a commentator in it, and I was more like, "Oh, Michael Keaton."
Yeah, that was very much in the downturn of his career, though, wasn't it? Like
he was on the backup. He was, I think he'd filmed Birdman at the time.
What is it that late in the day? Need for Speed.
On the way. It was 2013.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was doing my PGC at Eccles sixth form when they took a lot of the sixth formers on a trip to go and watch it for some reason. But I
hasn't been a popular game for years.
No, yeah. But they seem to have waited until the video game franchise was dead to then do a film about it. You know, because
I feel like it's around about the same time Need for Speed Carbon was out, which I think did reasonably well, but that was like the people like we're done now. This is as far as we're going with Need for Speed.
Yeah. Uncharted. Now I've done this one this week for the first time, and I said to Ollie yesterday, I really enjoyed this.
I didn't get a chance to see it in the end.
I haven't seen it, but everyone. I haven't. I've heard it's really good. I know Sam said he went to watch it and he thinks it's top tier.
I honestly, like, it surprised me more than I thought it would do. I will concede that these two, Mark Wahlberg and Tom Holland,
that put me off. that put me off. I just think it was very cynically cast.
They're not Nathan Drake and Sully. Then
No.
the sort of just the look of them. I think they do well enough in the film to sort of etch out them as new characters in a sort of cinematic world. In that if you are going to go down the route of doing sequels, I can believe them and I can sort of fall into that. But I enjoyed it. I had a really fun time with it. So I'm going to just stick it straight into one.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a first. It wasn't fantastic, but it was better than I thought it was going to be. Right, I paired these two together. I just moved the second one up because again I thought that made sense. Angry Birds.
I've not seen. I have heard both of them are better than they have any right to be.
I've been in the room while they've been on. I haven't watched them. I've been like at my nan's, and one of like my cousin's kids have been there watching it. And I've been like chatting to my nan while he sits there watching it, and even he was a bit bored by it.
Okay.
It's got moments in it that are like, oh, that's actually pretty funny. You know what I mean? Like it is, and consider the fact it's a game that's based on firing birds from a slingshot. Like that's the entire game. You know, at some pigs. It's reasonably entertaining because they do literally fire birds from a slingshot still. Like that is an element of the film. And the way they justify why they've got to do that, you know, to get their eggs back, and it's quite funny, and it does lead to some kind of ridiculous scenario. So I think if you consider the fact it's aimed at kids,
Yeah.
I think it does what it's set out to do. It is a good kids film. It's entertaining. There's loads of bits that, you know, are funny from the point of view of that's a silly scenario, which is exactly what you want in a kids film.
It sounds very 2-2.
2-2?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's not, like I say, it's not great.
Would you just stick the second one in the same place as well, or?
Yeah, they're much for muchness, aren't they? They're
Yeah?
very similar. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Hitman.
So I must remember which one was which, because I remember quite enjoying one and really disliking
Hitman's
the
the
other
Timothy Oliphant one.
Yeah, Rupert Friend was Agent 47.
Yeah. I think it's the second one that I enjoyed more. I think the first one's just a bit.
It's a bit dull, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And I get that like he is a silent protagonist in the game and stuff, and he is a bit of he's not a really interesting character. It's just it's about the gameplay, isn't it? The Hitman
I think
series.
Timothy Oliphant's a weird casting as well, because like when you see him in like Justified and Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian, that's the character he's really good at playing, that kind of likable badass.
Yeah, he's a bit funny as well, isn't he? Like he's good at being funny and like really calm in really tense situations.
Got a twinkle in his eye.
Yeah, like a show where his wife's a zombie. I forget what it's called on Netflix.
Oh yeah, Drew Barrymore. Yeah.
He's really good at being in really uncomfortable situations and somehow being really lighthearted and funny about it. But this is a really serious I'm this killer assassin. So yeah, it was a bit meh for me. I mean it's got.
I'm thinking third.
Yeah, I would argue with that. Yeah.
Would you argue with either of me putting it in a fail?
No,
because it's absolute trash.
Yeah.
Like as somebody who loves the Hitman games, I
never had you down as a stealth gamer, Adam. Hitman and Splinter Cell. Good man.
Oh, I love the Hitman games, right? But he's calm, he's stoic, he doesn't show any emotion, and I know that realistically, trying to get that on screen is going to be difficult. But the amount of times that I had to see Timothy Oliphant scream at somebody, shout at somebody, shake a computer screen. This isn't Hitman. This is something else.
That's the thing with any character. Is like, oh, this is an emotionless character. They forget that anger is an emotion.
Yeah.
And it really bothers me that because they seem to be like, oh, we won't show happiness or anything else, but we'll show extreme anger just to remind the audience that we're the bad guy.
But it also doesn't work for a protagonist, does it? If your protagonist is emotionless, it kind of doesn't work. Is it Absolution, which is the one that really does a good job of keeping him like that kind of emotionless, but giving him like, because he's like looking out for that kid, isn't he? Who's
yeah.
Like that's Agent 47's best character that we've ever seen, and this was very far from it.
Because I mean, there might be people listening to this who, you know, when I say that I'm a Hitman fan, I'll be totally honest. The first few, I couldn't get on board with because of the controls and the
They're quite
controls.
clunky, yeah.
But then when Absolution came out, they completely re-engineered it, and that's where I jumped on board with it. I was like, right, I can figure this out now. And I love the sort of the more recent 1, 2, 3 ones that they've done, but now they've merged them all together as one bundle. And you can do these sort of like open world contract type stuff. Love that, love all that. Just the idea, like my mate said to me, I can't imagine doing a level over and over and over again. And I was like, yeah, but I love going back into the same thing, trying to figure out a different way of how to do it. Like I need to kill somebody this time with an explosive Napoleon
With a
Bonaparte, and how am
cannon.
I going to figure that out? You know,
Off throwing a suitcase at them from 200 meters away.
exactly. You know,
And it
the way
follows
that
them.
you can just launder out a suitcase, all in
Yeah.
for all day long. House of the Dead.
I mean, I've
I've not-
seen it, but it's Uwe Boll, so
I've
we
not
can
seen
fail
it.
it, surely.
Isn't it just a generic? Some people trapped on an island. Some zombies get released. The game had no real storyline, so I guess there's no. It didn't.
It's
fail
such a
the
bizarre one
storyline.
to pick to decide to do a film on. Like,
Yeah, they wanted to make a zombie film on an island, and they thought, what can we link this to? They didn't want
yeah,
to be in the Romero universe, so they picked that. And I
Yeah.
think, yeah, it's a fail for me. That
should we just bunk it
it's
straight
not
and
even a
fail?
good zombie film.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Ube. Sonic the Hedgehog.
Hmm.
Do you know, I actually haven't seen this. I know it's
What?
supposed to be really. I've been told it's really good, and it's on my list of like I need to watch this.
I love
but I
Sonic
haven't
the
watched it
Hedgehog.
It
I've
is.
seen
It
lots
is
of clips of it, and every clip I've seen looks like I've seen Jim Carrey's dance. I've seen for some reason the end battle because that was on Instagram for some reason.
Okay.
So I've probably seen all the film just in clips at different times.
Yeah.
It's a return to form from Jim Carrey, who's had a few years out.
Yeah.
Like this is, if you slotted this performance into like his heyday in the 90s, it wouldn't look out of place.
Mm-hmm.
He's incredible. Like, and
I have heard he carries the film
I
like
don't
a
think
lot.
that's fair. I think everyone else does absolutely
James
fine.
Marden does a very good job as a sort of I am
Dad.
the human sidekick type. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
At least it's not that. Did you see the original trailer with the like human-like eyes? That was just.
I've got a theory on that. I
absolutely
think Adam's heard it.
horrifying.
Go on.
I think they deliberately put out Ugly Sonic so that everyone would hate it, so that they could then be the white knight and say, we've heard your concerns, we're going to go back and rework this. Because if they just released the Sonic that we got, people would have still complained about it.
Right.
And people would have said, oh, it doesn't look anything like Sonic. No. So they tried to make it look as un-Sonic as possible at first, knowing that everyone would hate it. And then any adjustment they made towards what they wanted would have been well received.
Ugly Sonic. Have you seen Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers?
Yeah.
They've got Ugly Sonic signing at a convention.
Yes.
Oh dear. I'm happy with this going into 2-1.
Yes.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love the tails tease at the end. You know. Right. Mortal Kombat 1995. Now,
so as a child, I love this film.
Yeah.
It was like it was just so good.
Do you remember seeing Scorpions for the first time? The sort of skin opening up in his hand, and yeah.
And obviously, we all love the game because of like it was like these days kids like, oh, I want to play GTA because it's the game that I'm not supposed to play. For us, that was Mortal Kombat because that was the game that all the parents were like, your kids can't have this game, and we were like, well, I've got it. Until Manhunt came out anyway, and it was. I think it's one of those films that like kind of got the era, the campiness, and everything just right for its time.
Yeah.
I think it's like it's good. Like if it was released today, we'd all hate it. But for its time, I think it was a good film.
Do you think it should have aimed for a higher age rating though, with it being Mortal Kombat?
I think today they would have probably done that, but I think at the time they knew that their audience, as much as they weren't allowed to admit it, they knew their audience was under 18.
Was it a 15?
I think it was a 12 or a PG-13 in America.
Yeah, it might have been. I don't think it was a 15.
Let's give it a quick Google.
I don't think I saw it at the cinema. I was saying that I wouldn't have been 12. I don't think. Well, I wasn't 12 at the time.
Oh,
But
BBFC. Mortal Kombat. 1990, 15.
15.
Ah,
There you
okay, fair enough.
There are frequent scenes of violence, including punches, kicks,
When you
and neck
consider
and
that-
arm
Ah,
breaks.
okay,
The
no,
game-
that's
the
fine
game is an
then, 'cause I
18, isn't
remember
it?
just
Yeah,
yeah, I just
It's
remember
like
it being
the
a
film
bit
has a lower rating than the
sanitized.
game.
yeah. Like,
The game has an 18, and you can see that the modern film went for an 18, though it took itself a bit
Yeah.
too seriously. The modern one, didn't
yeah.
it? But yeah, I mean, like I say, it's probably not a first, but I think it's a solid 2-1 if you take it for when it came out and how it
Really,
was.
that
at the time.
high?
I enjoy. I'm not willing to die on the hill, but for me personally,
Yeah.
I enjoyed that enough to put
I
it
think-
higher.
I enjoyed it. I certainly don't think it's better than like Lara Croft Tomb Raider, though.
See, I do think it's better than Tomb Raider.
Oh.
Yeah.
My gut is 2-2. 'Cause
I'd say
I'm
I
happy to compromise and have it in the ranking in 2-2 higher if that's where we're going.
I don't think that it's, because you're the only one who does this, Ollie. I don't know if Michael does this, but when we do a tier list, I'm not bothered about where I've put 'em. But you're like,
Yeah.
that one should be higher in that one. Right,
fine.
Rampage.
I didn't know this was based on a game.
Well,
I've seen this.
according to the list that I found, and I am just going to double check because otherwise we'll just delete it. I can't even spell Rampage.
I'm just looking at the trivia on IMDb now.
Video game series of the same name by Midway Games.
What's the game? Can you follow the link?
It's just called Rampage. There you go, Rampage
like-
1986. There he
I've
is.
never heard of this.
So it's like an Atari game, isn't it?
Yeah, he's just battering, buildings as he does.
Mm. I mean,
Um,
all I know about this is the meme where it's like The Rock and it's like, believe it or not, this is The Rock in 4 different films, and it's him in like Jungle Cruise,
yes,
Jumanji. This. I want to say Welcome to the Jungle, but he looks significantly younger in this. It's basically they've got him in that kind of khaki jungle wear.
Yeah,
every
wearing sandy
single
pants.
film.
Yeah.
It might be San Andreas.
Yeah, it
He
might
has
be.
played like the same character now, essentially, in about 50 different films.
Yeah.
He just kind of, can you come in and do the Dwayne Johnson character for us, please?
Of course I can. That's what I was born to do.
Mm.
Yeah. And it does it really well, just we've seen it so much.
Yeah. This is middling for me.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd go 2-2. It's a fine.
Yeah.
It was in the sort of realm of what they were trying to do with Godzilla. Kong Skull Island, all that kind of stuff, and they thought, you know what, we'll chuck a big ape out and we'll do that. Ollie, have you seen it?
No, I've not seen it.
It's fine. It's nothing.
It just looks,
nothing
it just looks
special.
very mid at best. It looks very CGI, screw mess. There's going to be some message in there about how man is the real monster and just shove off.
Yes, that's exactly what happens. Sonic 2.
I love this.
Oh, really?
I
didn't
love
like it as
Sonic
much as the
2.
first one. I didn't like it as much as the first one.
I really liked it. I think Eggman looking actually like Eggman was great. I think Idris Elba really surprised me as Knuckles. I thought he was great.
I didn't think his voice fit.
I did. I liked how kind of like, especially in the moments where it was obvious that he was actually really dumb.
Yeah.
Like it did work, I think, and yeah, because it took. And you could easily say in something like that, it's like, oh, Idris is doing it for the paycheck. It's clear that he is actually trying. Like he's putting his effort into it. The Sonic's progression is quite nice. The visuals are quite nice, especially with stuff like Supersonic, the big mech that Eggman ends up with. I do like it.
I wonder. I mean, are you bothering first with this?
Oh God, no. I'm
right. So I would go 2-2. Are you thinking 2-1?
It is in that. It's that cusp, isn't it?
Right.
I'm happy to let Michael be the deciding vote.
I haven't seen it, unfortunately, so I can't wait. I will say, with like the Idris Elba, I've seen the trailer and I did not know that was Idris Elba voicing
Oh,
Knuckles.
okay.
I had no idea. I just yeah. So it was, I guess,
Ollie,
good
have you
enough to
turned to
disguise that it was
Georgia? Have
him.
you got
So
have you
to
got
Georgia,
Georgia?
Georgia has kind of asked what the deciding is. If we're happy for Georgia to be the decider, she has said 2-2, and I get that.
Thanks, Georgia.
I did really like it. I thought they did Tails great. It's great that they got the original voice actress for Tails as well.
Yeah,
And just
yeah.
incorporated them. I love the visuals in it. I love the gags, even though they should be like really childish. But I love the dance off that he has in the Alpine bar. I love that shot where he slow-mo throws. I can't remember exactly what it is. I think it's a ring, and Eggman just goes across like that, completely still, like, like it's so meme worthy. And yeah, I love it.
Because I did begin to wonder, and we've not really discussed this, but it's fine, about whether we're putting things in places because they're just a good video game adaptation, or whether they're actually like, you know, if you were doing a films of 2022 list, would Sonic the Hedgehog 2 be in a 2-2 or 2-1, or is that just
Yeah, I see
because
what you
of the
mean.
sort of
I think
everything
it
else
has
that
to
we're
be
looking at the
relative.
same time? Yeah.
Like video game movies, by their very definition, are pretty crap. Like
I think we're on the way up, as we will come to.
there are
Gran
some
Turismo.
fantastic ones. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, but like as a general rule of thumb, they're terrible.
Yes, yeah, they have been for a long time, but I think
Yes.
we're breaking through that a little bit. I'd think, because Ollie, I'm sure you can agree, if we were including TV in this, Last of Us, it wouldn't even be called First.
Oh, The Last of Us would
It'd be
be.
called The Last of Us. That's it.
Yeah.
That's just where that would be.
Georgia has said God tier.
Yes, it'd just be on its own somewhere. You
I
know,
would put The Witcher fairly high up there. I've not seen season 3 yet, but what
it
I've
ran
seen
into a wall. Michael said it ran into a wall.
I'm kind of refusing to watch season 3 because even season 2, just by the end of it, I'm like, he's a monster hunter. Where are the monsters? Like, what's going on? Why am I? I don't know. I just feel like the story from The Witcher 3, take any side story even, is better than the entire series.
Yeah.
Like, I vibe that they've get. I like the vibe that they've managed to get from the games of these decisions are actually really hard. I think that was quite a hard thing to capture from the games of.
Good. I think season 1's really good. I think
Season
episode 1 of season 1 is probably one of the best episodes of TV out there. Like, that is genuinely excellent, where it shows how he became the Butcher of Blaviken and stuff. But I just feel as they went on, the writers kind of were just more and more going, no, this is our story. We want to tell our story. And then Yennefer tries to basically kill Ciri, not kill her, but like hand her over, which she would never do. And I just feel like once you move so far away from the characters, I'm just like, no, I'm done. And I know Henry Cavill had very similar issues with it, and that's kind of why he started to pull away from it. And apparently they were arguing on set a lot about it. And I just feel, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like The Witcher. I'm sure it's a good show in its own right.
Not to go off on a tangent, but I'm on you slightly. Have you seen which episodes Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey have put forward for the Emmys?
No.
So, Bella Ramsey has put forward When We Are in Need, which is the one that she's locked in David's cage and she kills David and all that kind of one, definitely that we'd agree with. Pedro Pascal and Variety said, we don't agree with this and we think he's in trouble with this. He's picked Kin, which is the one where they reunite with Tommy in Tommy's settlement.
No, that makes sense. You said that was his Emmy moment.
To be fair, I did, and going back and reading it this morning, I think it's the stabbing and the falling off the horse and all that kind of stuff that I think throws that in and sprinkles that in. People were more surprised that they didn't pick finale, but I do think the finale is a bit more of a sort of, I'm going to go through this hospital and absolutely kill everybody.
Yeah.
Do I get an award?
It's not his strongest acting performance either. It is like the widest range of acting he shows is in Kin.
Yeah. I didn't agree with it, but like I thought I didn't agree with the article because I like that. You've not seen Succession, have you?
No.
Yeah, there was contention about which episode they picked for Succession as well, but I think they make sense as well. Anyway, right, I think we're about to hit proper nostalgia territory here. Pokemon the movie.
I think this might have, had you asked me at a certain point when I was like, I think 10, I think this was my favorite film. I absolutely adored it.
I
It
think I
was just
agree.
wonderful. I
I
think when
remember
the
having
two
the
Pikachus were
VHS. I think
fighting, I was like crying in the cinema because the two Pikachus were slapping each other. It was just like, yeah, I think it was just this big, it was like the climax to this massive phenomenon that was Pokemon.
yeah.
Like we had the TV series, we had the
Mm.
game, we were all completely enamored by it. And then we had this movie, you got that special edition card when you went to it. That everyone was like, the ancient Mew, that everyone was like, this is
Yeah.
actually dead powerful. It's all in Japanese, so you can't tell, but actually this move does 1,000,000 damage. So I've won. Stuff like that. But yeah, it was just like good. And I think like looking back at it, it's a decent storyline. It's a
Yeah.
good, when you consider how big the Pokemon universe is, it's a decent for what it
Ollie,
is.
you stop pointing your face, boy.
I'm kind of with you. I just sat next to someone who I know hates this film.
Why?
Pokemon, the first movie. You hated this when we watched it. You were angry when it was over.
Is George a Pokemon fan?
Yeah. We, like I said yesterday, like we've gone periodically through. We'll start what's it like the Kanto series, go right the way through to most of Johto until we kind of lose steam for it.
Right.
And we were Pokemon goers for however long as well. Like we liked it, but the main message of the film is pretty muddled.
Yeah,
Like,
it's very
this
film
film
felt like
to give you the message of getting these animals to fight each other is bad. That's the entire point of the series.
They're not animals anyway, they're pocket monsters.
I think it's one of those where like the point of it is more, it's not about them being stronger, it's about them kind of competing, and it's not about like, because obviously the clones were like, we're the strongest, we're going to kill everyone kind of thing. Whereas they were like, that's not what it's about competition. And I think that, and they have always really struggled with this, because when you look at it objectively, they are kidnapping these animals and forcing them to fight, and we're all cheering for it. It's like, in reality, every version of this is illegal. You go to prison for doing these kind of things.
Yeah.
But
It's
in
so
that
bad.
world, the Pokemon themselves, many of them don't evolve and become reach their potential without this.
Yeah.
So I guess it's kind of like, and then he was like, the only way to reach your potential is through, cloning. The clones are better. And they were like, no, the potential is through working together to overcome obstacles. And I guess it was about like teamwork, wasn't it? That was, I think for me, that was like, it's about teamwork, and if friends together can achieve anything. And
my counter argument to that is that it doesn't have a very, very sad slow motion montage in the middle where it's like, how bad is it that these animals are all fighting each other? It really tries to hammer that point home of like, I'm ready for trouble, but not for this. Like, just James gurning in the corner. I love Mewtwo in this, to the point where, like, I don't care about all these stupid Gen 3, Gen 4, like, god tier Pokemon that have come along. Mewtwo is my OG, just best Pokemon. I don't care.
Oh, like, I'm purely original 151 if you want to count Mew. Like, any past that point, I have no
I don't
interest.
mind Johto, but
no interest.
My instinct for this is probably 2-2.
Yeah, I think nostalgia makes this movie feel better than it is.
It's not that good a film. Like, I have seen it fairly and I loved this film as a kid. I'm with you. I loved this film as a kid because the animation quality went up as well, and it was a hell of a moment when you thought Ash was dead and Pikachu crying. That isn't okay.
Yeah,
that is not an okay thing to put on us as kids. Pikachu crying and like desperately trying to release Ash from this like weird stony prison. And the Mew and the Mewtwo fight is pretty cool. I just wish that was a bit, like, I know it's not much of a plot. I just wish that was focused on a little bit more, because you only get it for like 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's a bit Dragon Ball Z, that bit, isn't it? The
Yeah,
two
that's why I
uber
loved
powerful guys fighting while everyone looks on.
And I loved
but
as
yeah.
well, like Mewtwo's like monologuing at Mew, and Mew's just like, ah.
Yeah, it is very like it's what I would consider good anime. I'm not big into anime. I think it's a bit over the top with its emotions, and I'm not big into that. I'm British, so we don't do emotion. But like, it's the Pokemon movie kind of does it. I imagine it's probably because I was so already bought in that it didn't bother me as much. Because obviously Ash is like always like so emotive, and I'm like, where is this a coming? How does one person have that many emotions? What's going on? But like, yeah, I do think when I think about it, like really, it is nostalgia that's making me like it, and probably more than it is. So yeah, I think Tutu's fair.
Okay.
I feel like we're chucking everything in Tutu though.
I did. Yeah, we need a bigger box. Right. Resident Evil.
Ooh.
Now we spoke about this yesterday, Ollie. In that I said, even though I do think it's seen as naff, I actually quite like this.
I think that is very unfair. Like, I think this is quite good for a zombie film.
I agree. It's quite. I would say though, based on something you said earlier about you not including all the others, I think this series got better the less seriously it took itself.
Oh,
like
really?
the last few movies where they're just proper not taking themselves serious. I'm like, yeah, Mia Jokovich's a superhero. That's fine. No worries.
I can get behind that as a concept, but I quite like this one. I do like that it is relatively grounded. There's enough nods to the original. Like, I know it's very different from Resident Evil, but it's like.
But the original game is this elite force going into the mansion, and there is a lab under the mansion, which is essentially the storyline of the film.
Yeah, it takes a couple of liberties with it, but in a good way. I think it's nice and fresh to keep actual fans of the series on their toes a little bit.
Yeah, and I think the cast is like there's some
really
decent people in it. Yeah, you've got Michelle Rodriguez, you've got
Mila Jovovich, James Purefoy, Colin Salmon.
That's like 3 times we've mentioned Michelle Rodriguez in this podcast.
Yeah,
she's
loves
in a lot of video game movies.
She?
Yeah. She kind of like, she just likes making movies, doesn't she? She's like a female Nick Cage. She's just like, offer her contracts and she will take it.
This is peak Michelle Rodriguez as well. You know that kind of that female member of the group who is the best fighter and
yeah.
And the Red Queen's a really good villain as well. You know, just it's a very early AR. That hallway scene is so good.
It is so. It's like probably the peak of the film.
Yeah,
which is a shame because it's partway through, but it is so good, and I think that moment alone is kind of like saves a lot of the. Even if you don't like the film, you can't deny that's well shot. The stakes are real. Everybody involved is like, oh my god, what's going to happen? And then it's like, oh, he's going to survive. He's doing really good. And then it's like, no, he's not. He's getting cheese grated.
And the creature designs are really good as well. I remember the liquor actually looking really good. Like,
it does, and it does look like terrifying. Like as much as it's not. I guess it is horror because it's zombies, isn't it? It's not like a really scary horror. But that
there are some proper horror moments in this.
That is way it like busts out of its cage, and then it's like in the distance, and then obviously in the end, it's like stuck under the train, and it's still not dying.
Yeah,
You kind of see just that this is a terrifying villain, not villain, but like creature. And then obviously at the end, where they're like, "Oh, we're safe, we're okay," and then Umbrella just comes in and kidnaps them all in very Resident Evil fashion. I think based on what we were saying earlier about are we looking at just films, this does have quite a few good nods to the franchise. And I think because you're never going to get something that's the story of the game shot for shot, because you don't want that really anyway. As much as we think we do, that isn't what we want. But there's enough that it's like, oh yeah, this is definitely a Resident Evil film. Like if you take all the Resident Evil stuff out, the film doesn't make sense anymore. It's not a standalone zombie film.
You need the T-virus, you need Umbrella, you need all of those elements. And I like that they managed to do it without like trying to shoehorn in one of the game characters at this point as well.
Yeah, I mean, they started very quickly in number two.
Immediately after you get Jill Valentine, like Carlos, just no, you don't need it.
I guess what they do with James Purefoy obviously turns into Nemesis, doesn't he? But I guess you don't know that's what's happening to him.
It's not Purefoy, it's the guy, it's the boss from Ugly Betty who becomes
Nemesis.
I can't remember his name, the actor, but he's the boss in Ugly Betty.
Fair enough. I thought it was him.
No, James
Oh,
Purefoy maybe gets turned into
he's
a
the one who
crimson head.
released. Yeah, he's the one who released the virus, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. This film also had a couple of pausable moments for us when it was released as well, if you remember.
Are you speaking for yourself, though, you perv?
No, I'm not. I'm not. You liar. You definitely did. When she's like putting the robe on after, like Mila Jovovich, when she's putting the robe on after, and when she's like crawling backwards in that umbrella lab at the end, everyone tried to pause it. They did. George is looking at me very judgmentally.
Well, so she should. I'm thinking 2-1.
I'm easily thinking 2-1, lads.
Yeah?
Easily.
Yeah.
Bang. Straight in. I'm very conscious of how many we've got left. So brevity for the rest. Silent Hill Revelation. I've not
seen. Is this the second one?
This is the second one.
Yeah, this one was a bit of a mess.
Yeah, I see. I've not seen this one. The first one was all right, I guess.
I didn't mind the first one.
It wasn't good enough.
Let's bring the first one up.
Because this was the one. It was like this in 3D and stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think the first one was like all right, but it wasn't good enough that when the sequel was announced, I just wasn't interested.
Yeah, I 2-2 the first one, and then I'd defer to Ollie for the second one.
I think 2-2 is probably fair. Silent Hill's a weird game because it's. I said this to you last night. Do you go with the kind of Silent Hill 1 plot where Silent Hill is a manifestation of like there's a cult involved? And there's a very powerful psychic girl, and it's her monsters that are there. Or do you go with the Silent 2 plot, which I think is more interesting, where you go there and it's the demons are a manifestation of your trouble.
Yeah,
like there's a reason that Silent Hill 2 is still considered one of the best horror games of all time. It's because the plot is unreal, the symbolism in there is unreal, and I think that's missing from both of these.
Okay.
Really, like it's kind of in this one, but not really. And they try and throw the cult in, but also Pyramid Head's there because he's marketable. Even though Pyramid Head was very specifically James Sunderland wanting punishment for what he did.
Where do you want to put Revelation?
I think it's a fail. I think it's very style over substance. Like it goes for all of that imagery, but again, there's no reason to tie the imagery into what's happening on screen.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, the nurses from Silent Hill 2. Do you remember them? It's like, yeah. And they were there because James Sunderland sexualized the nurses while he was visiting his dying wife, and he feels guilty about that. Why are they here? Like,
Prince of Persia, which I haven't seen.
This is a weird one.
Jake Gyllenhaal, isn't it?
Yeah.
As much as I love old Jakey G, I've not seen it.
So it's an okay kind of like weird swashbuckling action film, and it incorporates the lore of it quite well, like the way they do like the time stopping because of the dagger. It looks very visually interesting. I don't think we can get away from the fact that this is a very white cast for a film called Prince of Persia.
Yeah,
I think that's fairly damning. Like Ben Kingsley's in there, but Ben Kingsley's in there because he's dark. He's not Persian. Like I'm pretty sure he's Indian. Yeah, you have white people everywhere in this film, and it's real. Gemma Arterton is the love interest. And it's like, why? Just get any actress of color.
Too difficult, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, it was all right. It incorporated the lore of the game in quite well. It is very Prince of Persia, and it's that modern Prince of Persia, with the dagger of time and using the dagger to manipulate time and stuff like that. It's okay. I've never been excuse me. I've never been desperate to go back and watch it, but I thought, yeah, that's all right.
2-2.
Yeah, very middle of the road 2-2.
2-2. I'm going to Angry Birds. There you go. Right, Hitman Agent 47. Now, I'll be honest, I've not seen this, mainly because of how I felt after Hitman.
He's a very different Hitman in this one. Let me just double check it is the one I'm thinking of.
It's the one that's got
it's Rupert Friend, the Grand Inquisitor. Hello.
The Grand Inquisitor. Nobody expects the Grand Inquisitor.
Well, certainly not after he's been stabbed.
Oh no, that's true.
Hatred can do wondrous things for the soul. Don't you agree?
Oh dear.
I like the character more in this, where he's like a really competent, cocky, kind of like, because obviously you can't have the game character in a film, as we discussed before, because he's so emotionless and he's just a vehicle for the player.
Yeah.
Whereas in this, they give him that kind of really competent assassin vibe, which is better than the first one. I still don't think it's an incredible film, but I feel that the character is better, at least.
I
Like,
remember
he's a
getting the
more
vibe from the
likable.
trailer that he was going to be the antagonist, which was quite an interesting take. Like it was people trying to survive being assassinated by him, which I think would be an interest. I know that's not what ended up because the second trailer was like, oh no, it turns out Zachary Quinto's the villain. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and I agree. That would have been a good take on it. And I do think that we don't get many films, because I always said like a film I'd love to see is like the Avengers happening, but we're just following some guy in New York who's surviving it. Stuff like it would be interesting having one of this like really powerful guy who's going through just killing everyone after his target, and you're just, Greg in the office trying to survive him.
These bloody superheroes again. Got a deadline.
We're really sorry, we're really sorry, Mr. Smith, but unfortunately, your insurance coverage does not cover the Hulk throwing your car at an alien.
You needed the premium for that.
Yeah, you didn't get into our diamond package, unfortunately.
Yeah. Right, where's Agent 47 going?
It's above the other one, but it's not. I won't put it above.
Sounds very thirdy.
Well, we failed the other one, or I failed the other one. Third.
Yeah, it's not. Okay. It's not amazing. It's just better than the other one.
Right, I've not seen this one.
I've not seen this one.
In the Name of the King.
And I feel like this is like, yeah,
not a clue, mate. Not a clue.
It's a film series, apparently.
Oh my god!
Now we have differing views on this, Michael. I don't know where you stand on Max Payne. I didn't think this was an awful film.
I don't think I've seen it. I might have done.
Ollie, you seem to have more of an issue with Mark Wahlberg than anything else.
He's just not Max Payne. I think Mark Wahlberg is like he's there's something like one of my favorite comedies is Mark Wahlberg. It's Other Guys.
Yeah.
Because he's surprisingly funny, and I think
he's really good in let me fly.
Yeah, peacocks don't fly. But because Max Payne is this incredibly dark noir setting, and he just doesn't fit that. He's not got the ability to kind of like he didn't have that depressed side of him that Max Payne has got. Do you know what I mean? He was very angry, and I get that he would be angry, but the Max Payne in the games was incredibly angry. He was seething under the surface kind of constantly, but at his heart, he's depressed. He's depressed, and you get that. He's kind of like very downtrodden. And I think it's because I have such an affinity, especially for Max Payne 2.
Yeah.
And I still think that like Max Payne 3 is one of the best looking games ever made. Like I went back on the Xbox 360 recently and played it, and it's like this game is still incredible and it's good. And he's just depressed. Like when he's not doing his job, he's in his apartment in Brazil drinking and pilling himself into a stupor because he doesn't know what else to do. And you didn't get that from this at all. And like the film is so inflated by that. Like I get bullet time as a thing. I get that you got slow motion and stuff like that. But the way they use it in this, like if you didn't have any slow motion in this film, I swear it would be 40 minutes long.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, we're seeing bullets explode things and it's wet and like fine. Yeah, whatever.
When I say
Mila
that,
Kunis is not Mona Sachs. Oh my god, what horrible casting! Get in the bin. I love Mila Kunis. You're not Mona Sachs. You're not this femme fatale assassin. Olga Kurilenko would have been better at that. The woman who played her sister.
Too young at that point.
Way too young, especially opposite Mark Wahlberg. Because Mona and Max are meant to have chemistry. Like, it's not that apparent in the first game, but the second game, they have real chemistry.
Yeah.
And Yeah, it is just.
Yeah, when I say that I don't mind it, I'm not going any higher than the 2-2 here.
I'd be genuinely tempted to fail this.
Whoa, I don't think it's that bad.
I'll meet you at a third.
I'll meet you at a third.
Because
third.
I'll admit it does the plot from the game, and it gets the themes in there. And I do like some of the Valkyrie stuff where we like. I like the element of he willingly takes the V because he gets chucked into the Hudson. So he takes the V in order to survive. I think that's an interesting take on it. And I like the imagery of like actual Valkyries come in and try and get you. Like, yeah, that's cool. I like how they got that. But beyond that,
the one that seemed to have surprised us all, Ratchet and Clank.
I didn't even know this was a film.
I just looked so like Sylvester Stallone's in it, and
what?
Like, what's that about?
Get it in first. Get it in first now.
Get it up there straight away. Up the Ratchet and Clank. I'm gonna have to put it in Not a Clue, mate. But
I could imagine that being a fun film because it'll be like aimed at kids because it is a very cartoony game anyway. And like Ratchet and Clank is always, Ratchet and Clank's always like a really fun time to play. So I can imagine it being like this imaginative little space adventure.
It looks like the story of the reboot on PlayStation 4. Look at the trailer now. It looks basically it's that story.
It's like tie-in, yeah.
That's annoying then. I don't know why you wouldn't do because the whole point of it is that it's space exploration. You could literally do like an original story within it and it'd be fine.
Yeah.
Like you don't need to do something that was within the game. But
I'm gonna have to defer to you two on Double Dragon. I've not seen it.
I vaguely remember watching it. And I remember it being a very generic, just is it like early 90s kind of action film with some.
I imagine it's kind of on par with Mario, but maybe worse just because it's not got the same kind of like Double Dragon as a game doesn't have the fandom that Mario does. So you can't kind of be like, that Leonardo DiCaprio meme pointing at the screen. You can't quite do that with this. I'm also not a fan of any film that does Robert Patrick dirty, and this film kind of does Robert Patrick dirty.
Why?
Yeah, I'm okay with failing it, I'll be honest.
It's third or fail. Let's third it. Let's be a bit more positive.
Only a bit.
Yeah, only a bit.
Right, Assassin's Creed.
This was it Michael Fassbender?
Yeah.
It was, wasn't it? See, I haven't seen it, but I've not heard anything good about it. Which has made me never want to see it.
I didn't mind this. I know, like, it takes itself probably way too seriously. I like that it didn't try and replicate one of the storylines from the game. I like that they showed us a different time period, at least. And it went with, like, one of the greatest villains in history, even though he's kind of a side character in Tomás de Torquemada, because he's the guy who's, like, mainly responsible for the Spanish Inquisition. So he was like the monk that you see in it, and there's a reason he's there throughout it. And they didn't just kill him off because that's not what happened historically either. I do get the criticism that this is just very boring.
It is so I know dull.
Adam's probably going to look to fail this, and I wouldn't fight on it.
It's not a film series that really... I mean, I guess there are certain storylines that could work as a film, but you don't play Assassin's Creed games for the story. I mean, I guess maybe the Ezio with like Brotherhood and stuff, but it is about the gameplay and how can I approach this, and the historical stuff's nice. It's like, oh, yeah, I can look this person up and they were a real person. These events actually happened. There wasn't this hooded assassin.
But you kind of said it there, Michael. The reason that the Ezio games we do hold up as like the best of them is because he is such an engaging character.
Yeah.
Neither of the Michael Fassbenders are engaging.
No.
My issue with it, and this is more a Fassbender issue, first of all, is that I do think he's a great actor when he wants to be. But he's done some tripe in his time. Like, The Snowman was on my dishonorable mentions for the worst films list. Because it's just awful. This is so dull. I've never been so bored as I was in the first 20 minutes of watching this the other day. And Marion Cotillard just like phoning it in. And then it saddened me the most when I saw Jeremy Irons. I thought, come on, Jeremy, what are you doing?
I did like some of the fight choreography, but I was very bored with the modern day stuff.
I think the big thing with any video game thing, what we've learned is you need the people involved to be invested.
Yeah.
And if they're like, oh, hey, this is a paycheck movie for me, then you're not going to get a performance out of them.
It's not a video game. I think there are video games of it, but when Henry Cavill finally makes this Warhammer film that he wants to make, like that's going to be good because he's so invested in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've known nothing about Warhammer, but I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
Because it's
that
a
was the
passion
strength
project.
of The Witcher as well. That was the strength of The Witcher. Certainly at the beginning, that was the strength of The Witcher. You had Henry Cavill, who was like pulling people up on accuracies within the book and within the games.
Yeah.
And like allowing them creative license in maybe some of the storytelling and how they do things, but like ultimately he would say Geralt wouldn't do that. He wouldn't he would he would, and similar to, it's not quite the same, but like Viggo Mortensen, like making, like looking after his own armor and like sharpening his sword and training with it properly so that he can be Aragorn. That's one of the things that really sells Lord of the Rings, is how good a character.
It's such a good performance. I mean, I don't think if they ever remake Lord of the Rings, they're going to have such an uphill battle.
I am failing this, Ollie, by the way.
I'm not fighting you on it. I do remember just being pleasantly surprised by it, but I think the problems we've got with the film as well are the problems with the game series. I remember when this was first advertised, bit of a tangent, but I remember thinking it would basically be like GTA, but in medieval times, the first one.
No. All you do in the Assassin's Creed games, if you don't know, is you climb up a big building, you jump off.
That's it. I mean, like, I thought that Altair would be our protagonist and we would just be in his shoes. Nah, we're in the shoes of some cocktail waiter and he's getting on this magic table which unlocks his genetic memory.
It's called Callum, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, why did you need that part of it? Why could it not have just been...
That is the lore of the Assassin's Creed, though, is it? I mean, I guess they don't have to do the whole, we're going into the genetic memory side, because they could have just gone, here's the story. Of one of the assassins of old.
Yeah, but that, like I said, like I'm agreeing that is a problem with the games as well as the film, because certainly the stuff I found slightly more engaging in this was the stuff in Spain in the past. I found that at least because you were seeing them do the jumps and the flips, and you were seeing like the fight choreography, and it was okay. Like, but like the focus was this present day stuff, which I agree with Adam, was so dull.
Yeah.
Characters we did not care about.
Street Fighter
is amazing.
It's a masterpiece.
Raul Julia in Street Fighter.
Raul Julia. Oh my God.
I apologize. Raul Julia in Street Fighter is
I don't think phenomenal. That was Ollie getting
temperamental. I wasn't correcting. I was just getting excited, Michael. I'm sorry
for getting excited about someone's mentioned a name or a
film. Raul Julia. Oh my God. He did not have to go so hard on M. Bison.
And he's like dying of cancer at the time. He's like genuinely
because he wanted his kids
dying.
His kids loved it, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think half of the production budget went on cocaine for Van Damme. And that shows.
Sure.
And he brought an energy that no one's ever seen in anything since.
It's incredible.
It's one of those things that just works, even though it's mental and it makes no sense. And like, why has the UN got this elite fighting force? Like, what's even going on there? But it just that line of like, when M. Bison came to your village, it was the greatest day of your life. But for me, it was Tuesday.
It was just a Tuesday. What a line!
It's just so good. And he delivers it so well. And I feel like after playing, like I'd never played as M. Bison in the game. After that film, he was the only character I'd play. There was no way I was playing as anyone else.
And you realise just how jacked M. Bison is in the film as well. And it's like, but you kind of wish he was as skinny as Raul Julia, because it's like, that'd be hilarious that he's the best fighter ever.
It is absolutely insane. I mean, there's issues, don't get me wrong. Like, I forget his name, but the guy with like the stretchy arms, he's not done very well. He's just this scientist in chains.
Oh, Dawson.
Yeah, Dawson, yeah. And, Ken and Ryu are, I guess, just like they've got this buddy cop vibe, but they're not cops. I don't know what's going on there.
And then you've got Guile, the all-American Belgian.
And obviously Kylie Minogue's there for some reason. Like, why is Kylie Minogue there?
I forgot Kylie was in this.
Yeah,
pop stars turning up in video game films.
I know.
Yeah,
but I feel like you two are sending this high.
Look, I think I am. Because it is enjoyable.
The thing is, I would have had Mario higher. like the original Mario, just because I think it's that same kind of category of it's clearly a terrible film.
Oh yeah.
God, it's enjoyable. It's such a blast.
Yeah, because I feel like almost every scene is what is the most mental way we could carry out this scene.
Yeah.
And is it Jean-Claude Van Damme driving into a boxing ring in a tank and arresting everybody?
Yeah.
And let's do it. You know what I mean? And it is, though it is annoying because that scene, as much as funny as that is, there are loads of times when a one-on-one fight is going to happen and something interrupts it. And that really annoys me because that's the whole point of Street Fighter is these one-on-one arena fights. And every time that's going to happen, something happens to stop it. There's an explosion or Jean-Claude Van Damme in a tank. But I don't know. I feel like it is. I agree with the Mario Brothers comparison, absolutely. But I feel like it is a better film than that, though. Like objective. I mean, it's not amazing, but it's better than that.
Yeah, it's a tidier plot, isn't it? And it's not. Yeah. I mean, we could put it in 2-1 just for shits and giggles.
I'd say 2-2-2-1. Yeah, I mean, it's not a first, unfortunately.
It's not a first, but
get it in 2-1.
Let's get it in 2-1.
Had that out a little bit. Alone in the Dark, another Uwe ball.
Fail.
Get it down there.
Fail.
We're just completely bypassing the not a clue, mate, just for all the Uwe ball ones.
I've actually seen Alone in the Dark. It's terrible.
Oh, okay. Wing Commander.
I've seen bits of this.
Not a clue.
I mean, I can't honestly say it would have to be not a clue, really, because I've only seen like the last 10 minutes of it and I don't really remember it.
Right.
I'm tempted to fail it because it doesn't have Mark Hamill in it, as far as I'm aware.
Shut your face.
What?
We've got a good stretch here.
Massive in Wing Commander.
It's got Matthew Lillard and Freddie Prinze Jr. in it,
and Saffron Burrows. I'm aware, but yeah.
Yeah, it's not. I've not seen it, but it doesn't. I mean, just looking at the trailer alone, the trailer doesn't even sell me on it. So,
right, pretty solid final run here. Super Mario Brothers from this year.
Now, I haven't seen it yet.
Okay,
I've listened to Jack Black songs enough to have like feature lengthed it, but I haven't seen the actual film yet.
My gut instinct is to go 2-1 with it.
Yeah, because I've said it before. It is cheesy, cliched, really bottom of the barrel childish, and I loved every second of it.
Yeah, because I think it struggles a little bit to get going.
Yeah,
but then all the sort of fan service it does by throwing the kart references in, by throwing Donkey Kong stuff in.
Some of the voice acting's a bit weird. Like Fred Armisen, I usually love him, but him as like Cranky Kong is a bit.
Yeah.
But I was pleasantly surprised by Chris Pratt because he was terrible in the trailers, but then his voice in the actual film really worked.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I felt like about them being real world as well. They still didn't look like they were characters from the real world of Brooklyn. Like they still looked a bit cartoonish.
Yeah. But that's more of an animation technique, surely.
Yeah, and obviously we can't talk about this film and not talk about Jack Black in this. I'm sorry.
Peaches. So, true story.
Not even just the song. He puts his heart into this. He like properly tried to find a Bowser voice, and it's so good.
Yesterday, went to Chester Zoo, right? I fell asleep in the car on the way to Chester Zoo. Thankfully, I don't drive. And I was woken up by Ruby behind me screaming Peaches because it was on, and she was just absolutely bellowing it. But then Amy's laughing because she didn't realize that Ruby knew all of the words to Peaches, which apparently she does, and she just like rip and let it go. So yeah.
To be fair, there aren't that many words to Peaches.
No, that's true. Yeah,
it is largely just Peaches.
It is largely just Peaches.
Mostly Peaches.
Mostly Peaches. Right, Detective Pikachu. Now, I said this to you the other day. I caught with this week because I'd not seen it, and I was so happily surprised by it, pleasantly surprised by it.
I think the animation's done quite well. I think.
It's stunning. The animation in this
live action Charizard is like that is terrifying. That is
so's the Gyarados.
Yeah, you do not want to be face to face with that. And I think that kind of this is how a world with Pokemon would work, is like there is a dark underside that we don't see in the animation. You know, and the whole like people can't understand Pokemon and the hilarity that comes from that. Like of people just misinterpreting things from them. I'm not I get why Ryan Reynolds was the voice because of obviously him being the dad and stuff and
Spoilers.
but it's a 2-year-old. It's more than 2 years old, isn't it? It doesn't matter now.
Yeah, it's
But,
your
like,
fault.
I get why, but I feel like he's a bad voice for Pikachu. I don't know.
I disagree. I think that's kind of the point. It's so jarring to hear that voice come out of that Pikachu. I think that's kind of the point, personally.
Maybe.
It's
I
with
can
Van
see
Wilder
that.
coming out of the Pikachu.
Yeah, like, and it's because
just
I
like
remember
it.
initially when you first heard, oh, Ryan Reynolds has been cast as Pikachu in a Pokemon film. I remember thinking, Jesus, how bad is this going to be?
Yeah.
But
it's better than it had any right to be.
Yeah,
I'll say that for it.
Lads, I'm not being funny. I'm genuinely thinking first.
I'm with you.
I'm genuinely
Really?
thinking first.
Yeah.
This is like by that criteria as well, because I like that criteria, Michael. I hadn't considered it. Like, would this work if you got rid of the IP?
And it wouldn't.
Absolutely not. This really loves Pokemon. Like the creators of this were really attuned to Pokemon. Abilities were all there. I loved how they kind of made some of those attacks look realistic. That Mr. Mime is horrifying.
The interrogation
Yeah.
scene is so good. Like having to use the miming to get through to he's just so good.
Is it Justice Smith? His name,
Yeah.
the main guy in it, and he's like he is the right cut. Like he looks uninvested, but it's in that kind of young lad getting through life kind of way. Ken Watanabe takes this film a little too seriously, but that's kind of funny.
And the Ditto was like, that was horrifying.
Yeah.
That was so horrifying.
No,
I didn't know they could turn into
okay.
people.
When he disguises himself as Catherine Howard and Justice is like, oh, come on, I'll not hit you. Like, I fancy you. It was so good. And Ryan Reynolds was really, like, this was PG, like, this was like Deadpool for kids. His quick firing off of it and everything. It was really funny.
I think that was the thing for me. I struggled to separate him from that because it was around at the same time. And I was just like, why is Deadpool in a Pikachu costume?
I love that. I thought that was perfect. I genuinely, that was the humor the film needed. And then I love them treating Psyduck as like a bomb instead of an idiot.
Oh yeah.
Like Psyduck is an idiot. He has anxiety and he's like constantly like, oh, I'm so It was so well realized. I guess we should have seen, like, I was annoyed that I didn't see the twist. It's like, oh, you've cast Bill Nighy in this. I maybe should have seen that he was the villain. And yeah, I kind of wish they'd got like a Giovanni reference in there as well, because Giovanni's like one of the few things about Pokemon, the villains that are threatening from the games. But oh god, it blew me away. Genuinely, this film blew me away.
I've not seen Tekken. You two weren't even aware that it existed.
No.
So I'm going to dump that down in a not a clue. I've not heard good stuff, but right. 2013, Alicia Vikander, Tomb Raider.
I really liked this.
I really
liked this. Alicia Vikander is so good. Like she gets that vibe very, very well.
Disappointed that they didn't continue.
Yeah.
I think it was because I played the games and I was like, oh, the movie's based on the first game, so I'll watch it. And there's some changes, but they make sense. Like they've taken the magical, fantastical elements out to ground it a bit more. And it goes like it's really good. The plot's good.
2018 it is.
Walter Goggins. What a boy.
Everyone's you know why everyone's doing what they're doing. It makes sense. Like she wants to save her dad wants to save everybody. You know, the guy on the island, he's doing his job for this. And it sets up the sequel so well. And then we never got it. And the fact that I'm disappointed we didn't get a sequel, I think says a lot.
It looks so much like that game as well.
Oh yeah, so there's
the aesthetic of that first Tomb Raider game so well. She's there with the like pickaxe, just to really
And,
hammer it in.
You know,
I
and the
just
fact that
thought
she
the
is very
Goggins as well.
competent.
Most of the
She's
time, if you get
competent.
Walter Goggins involved, it's going to be better. Like, even Predators, Walter Goggins in that is great. I'm not a big fan of Ant-Man and the Wasp, but Walter Goggins is great in that.
But yeah, Michael, to your point of like she's very competent. Yes, like
Yeah.
you didn't. Yeah,
But like she does get injured because she's in this. She's not like, you know, like some films are like the competent, so like the bullets are being fired them, but they're not being hit. They've fallen
Yeah.
50 foot, but they're fine. Like she does get injured, you know, but then like she kind of powers, just like in the game where she's just like, you're just running on adrenaline for
Yeah.
that entire game, aren't you, to get through?
Yeah.
And it has that set, because in the game you're like, oh, this is actually like what's going to happen next. You feel like that in the movie, and I thought they captured that really well. Without, because obviously in the game you've got all the other people there with her, like the other boat crew and stuff, and they haven't gone down that route of like she's trying to save her friend and all that kind of stuff. But no, they were really good changes, and I think like the twist in the film is really good because it's like, oh, actually this makes sense now.
Yeah,
I understand all the.
I do like stuff that has a fantastical feel, but then it grounds it in reality a bit more.
Yeah. And
Like,
you see, it's how we mythicize stuff and how we kind of have to create legends from things has led to this legend. Yeah.
And I like that they didn't do Himiko dirty. Like, Himiko was obviously the villain in the first game, and then they turned her into someone who was willing to like contain a plague. Like,
absolutely,
fair play.
Where are we going?
I'm tempted with first, you know.
I agree. It's definitely at least 2-1.
Okay.
It's definitely not below 2-1. I'd be happy with it in first.
If it's in 2-1, it is by far the best of the 2-1s.
Yeah. Mortal Kombat 20, whatever, because I couldn't remember what year it was out.
I haven't seen it, but I'll be honest, it looks like it takes itself too seriously.
I haven't seen it, so
because it's Mortal Kombat, so it shouldn't be.
Yeah. Like Mortal Kombat's a weird film choice because the plot of Mortal Kombat is just a mess. It's so much lore that's really complicated. Like, people do not buy Mortal Kombat because they are enjoying the story about Shao Kahn taking over the underworld or whatever it is. They enjoy seeing bones get broken and the imaginative fatalities. That's it.
It's like when Godzilla King of the Monsters came out and all these critics complained about the lack of character development. And I'm like, I'm not watching Godzilla for the lack of character development. Like,
but remember, you have to, I mean, as a tangent, you have to remember that Godzilla was originally an allegory for like the horrors of nuclear weapons. Like, Godzilla
great, but now I just want to see him kill some stuff. Like, you know. Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
This is terrible.
This is bad.
I feel like I saw it, but I don't remember it.
It's Mother, you're alive. Too bad you will die.
Fail it, Ollie?
Fail it. Like, if you are being memed for having the worst line reading in history, which I don't think it is, but it's up there. Like, yeah.
So Gran Turismo. Now, obviously, we're doing this before Michael's seen it.
Most people have seen it.
Yeah. So me and Ollie watched it as we recorded this yesterday. Reviews already up on the channel. Blah 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 blah. Go and do all that kind of stuff. Much better than either of us expected it to be.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a first.
No.
I would argue 2-1.
It's difficult because, like we said in the review, like it's got simultaneously some of the best acting we've ever seen in a video game film and some of the worst
ever.
And like, I'm not going to say in front of Michael now who the absolutely, wait, is that? I'm not going to say who it is. But Michael, when you watch this film, you're going to have a moment where you're like, Jesus, is that person? And then you're going to realize it is. And then you're going to be like, what the hell are they doing in this film?
It was so surreal because it was like where we were sat. The screen was so big.
The film was
I literally moved to Ollie and I went, is that? And I pointed across the way to where they were. And I was like, is that them?
It's so uncanny. But like, there's a point in the middle of the film as well where it, like, and it is, I checked as well, Adam, it is based, and again, I'm not going to spoil it for Michael. It did happen, the thing that we were worried that we're being exploitative over.
Yeah.
That did actually happen. And it is a bit of a gut punch, and it makes you go, oh God, yeah, this film is dealing with stuff. I said this to Adam as well, I like the meta angle. Like you almost wouldn't call this a video game movie because it isn't an adaptation of a video game. It's an adaptation of real events that were inspired because of a video game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got that from the trailer because I mean I looked it up and realized it is based on someone who won a tournament and stuff. But when I was watching the trailer, I was like, they've definitely gone around an F1 track or whatever and gone, have you ever played Gran Turismo? Yeah, right. I'm going to make a film about you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so at least he did, like, you know, he was a gamer, he did win a tournament and stuff, and then he did race.
Yeah.
But it's not really about the game. I mean, I guess, but also Gran Turismo, how do you make a movie about Gran Turismo that isn't something like this?
Yeah.
You know, realistically, it's the only way to make a film like that.
I could easily put this in 2-2, but I don't think I'm going to argue with you too much if you're really sure it's a 2-1.
I think with everything that's in 2-1, I'd say 2-1.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'd agree with that.
Lower down, but 2-1. Right. Last one. Doom.
Oh, no.
Now, we had a very brief conversation about this yesterday, Ollie.
Yeah.
I quite like this.
I think
it's enjoyable.
I think the good stuff in it. You say, how recently have you watched it, Michael?
It's a good few years, but this is one part of the film. But the fact that we have a scene that's like the game where you just, like, the camera's on the gun and you walk in and he's just blasting everything as he goes and all the sound effects are like the game. Because at first, ours is generic sci-fi, and then it goes to, I'm like, oh no, this is Doom. This is Doom. And I feel like I'm watching myself play Doom. Really good.
Yeah,
I use that clip in my teaching as well when I do point of view shots.
Yeah, because it's just so good. I'm not going to be wrong. It's very generic. You know, Dwayne Johnson's in fact, he's still going by The Rock at this point. It's so early.
Yeah, he's still The Rock.
And he's very much being a WWE star who's just become an actor.
I think this is quite a boring film, though.
It could be better. Like, it
could be a lot better, considering it's like when you think Doom, the whole point of Doom is that it's balls to the wall action. Mick Gordon, genty 8-string guitar playing in your ear, like constant. And this, I get that you've got to get a plot going along and stuff like that, but like that opening as well is really good, where the scientists are running away from something. One of the scientists' hands gets caught in the door and comes off. And then it's so boring for a while. Like, they get scared in hallways and there's like, oh, there's a monkey. Like, and there's really high octane music while they run to something, which is a noise, and it's nothing.
Oh,
and there's just so much of the film where nothing happens and you can't see what's happening because it's so damn dark. Like,
I think Resident Evil has a very similar element to it. I think it's got a very, very similar kind of flow as the first Resident Evil film, where we have all this stuff happening and then a team's going in to investigate. Right, and the bit where the team first gets there until the action starts is a bit boring. There's a bit more mystery in Resident Evil, I guess. And you've got a survivor and stuff.
And that's that kind of game. It is that kind of game as well. Resident Evil is survival horror, so it does need that slow burn element to it. Doom is an action game first and foremost. And if you wanted to make this more of a horror film, that's absolutely fine. I don't mind that direction, but they fail at that as well. It's not very scary. And
I think that's the thing with the action of Doom. The gameplay is like the opening to Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah,
but non-stop all the way through. But in a film, I guess you can't.
I get that you
can't keep that energy for 90 minutes.
But it's just there's one too many scenes for me of. Oh, the hard rock music comes on in the background and they're like shouting at each other and they run into a room and there's nothing there. And then it happens again and then it happens again. Like, I've got no problem with them getting there, being debriefed, having those quiet moments, build up, a bit of tension. Similar, like Aliens does that. Do you know what I mean? Aliens has exactly that. They get their debrief, they get down there, it's quiet for a bit, but then once the action starts, the tension doesn't drop. Yeah. I don't feel tense in this at all. And I'm like really going in on this film. There's a lot of stuff I like. I like that they actually make The Rock the villain in this.
Yeah.
He's actually really good at it. I like Carl Urban. I think he's really solid in this. I love that first person sequence shot. Go negative again. Why did they get rid of all the hell stuff?
Yeah, because that's big in Doom. That's the core
Yeah.
You know, the fact that they're draining energy from hell and then that causes demons to rip through into Earth and
Yeah, there's no
kind of
reason. There's no reason you couldn't have that as a plot in this. There's an energy crisis on Earth, so we're trying to get energy from hell, and then demons have come through. Like it's a stupid plot, but it's the plot of the game. And like you said for Warcraft as well, people probably aren't going to see this film if they're not already familiar with Doom.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So why they're making it this weird, oh, Martians had an extra chromosome, which doesn't give you superpowers, it gives you Down syndrome, by the way, boys and girls. But like, I'm not shaming people with Down syndrome, but that's the reality of genetics. Having an extra chromosome does not make you a superhuman.
I do think that like they've not thought about they're basically gone, what's the most generic plot we can have?
Yeah.
I don't get why they don't want to have hell in a movie. Because there are big groups of people who hate the Doom series because of its. I mean, I don't get why, because it's very clear that hell is bad and we should fight against hell.
Yeah.
But some people are like, oh, it's glorifying hell. It's like, well, it's not. There's no glorifying going on.
It's glorifying killing demons. There's nothing more Catholic than that. Like, and I didn't get as well, you know, the religious one. Like, why was he turning back? Because I thought the whole point of the chromosome was that if you are a good person, you become like this superhuman type, like Carl Urban does. Whereas if you're a bad person, you know, imprisoning, you know, like the prisoners they test it on, then you turn into one of those like hell beasts. And like that priest, like that, you know, the guy who is like quite religious.
I kind of thought that maybe deep down he was a bad person and he was using religion to shield and like pretend to be a good person because I'm religious, but actually, which in real life those people exist.
Yeah, fine, but you don't see, like, all you needed was one scene showing evidence of that.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean? And like, because you even got that with Pinky, you know, when because he becomes a demon because he's like laughing when that guy like dies on the toilet, which is quite funny. Like, I'd be laughing at that too. But and again, does that make him a bad person because this creep is making jokes about him, you know, needing a wheelchair? Does that make you a bad person if you laugh at that person, you know, suffering misfortune? I'd be like, yeah, screw him.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't. But I don't. Where are you two thinking?
I wouldn't go any higher than 2-2.
Yeah,
I think it's a solid 2. I don't think it's what I say. It's not a fail. It's not a third.
Yeah,
it's got enough redeeming qualities to go into 2-2, but it's got enough failures to prevent it going higher, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
It's fun, but you wouldn't watch.
Did you not feel a bit cheated though that the BFG got shot twice and neither of the shots hit anything?
I did, but they're saying I feel like they couldn't have done that good. They shouldn't have included it in the film. I don't think, because I don't feel like they could do it justice.
No, I reckon it's easy. I reckon rather than just The Rock's eyes going a bit yellow in his fight, he does like a Dragon Ball Z final transformation into some massive, like stronger than all the other Hell Beasts, like full-on demon-looking thing. And Carl Urban is then completely outmatched. He then reaches, grabs the BFG, blows his head off, clean off. That's
like
how you
Phil
do it.
Coulson. Oh, that's what that does.
Yeah. Oh, that's what that does. That would have done it. I think that would have done it justice. Like, it wouldn't have been the same, you know, that kind of chain shot or anything. But even the shot that we got, I think, was quite cool. But the fact that it didn't hit anything, I just felt a bit cheated. That could have been used as like the finishing blow on the big final boss. If you're going to treat this like a video game, which why not? It's a video game film. If that was like the killing shot on The Rock, that would have been great.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Yeah, I can see that.
But yeah, I think 2-2 probably fair.
Yeah,
because there's like I love the POV shot, and
right. I'm just gonna recap where we put stuff, and then we'll get out of here. So, in Not a Clue Mate, because we haven't got a clue, mate. Need for Speed, Monster Hunter, In the Name of the King, Ratchet and Clank, Tekken, the most recent Mortal Kombat, Dead or Alive, and Wing Commander. In a fail, Assassin's Creed, Mortal Kombat Annihilation, Silent Hill Revelation, House of the Dead, Hitman, Alone in the Dark, Blood Rain, and Tomb Raider: Cradle of Life. Thirds, Super Mario Brothers from 1993, Hitman Agent 47, Max Payne, Final Fantasy Spirits Within, Double Dragon. to 2 Doom, Pokemon the Movie, Lara Croft Tomb Raider, Silent Hill, Angry Birds 2, Prince of Persia, Mortal Kombat 95, Rampage, and Sonic the Hedgehog
On
2.
reflection,
Uh,
maybe we move Prince of Persia down to third. It is quite a generic film. The
There
only
you go, then.
the main saving grace is that Ben Kingsley's the villain. But
Okay.
yeah.
2-1, Sonic the Hedgehog, Warcraft, Uncharted, Resident Evil, Street Fighter, Super Mario Bros. 2023, Gran Turismo, and then your first. What are you laughing at?
Just Street Fighter. I know I agreed it should
Oh,
be
well.
there. But it very
your
much
first-
is like one of these things is not like the other.
Detective
Street Fighter's there,
Pikachu
like, how the hell did I get here?
and Tomb Raider. There we go. Great.
I'm happy with that.
I need to go back and watch Tomb Raider, actually. Like,
It is good, isn't it? Yeah.
It is
It
a
is
good
a
film. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you to both Ollie and Michael for joining me. We'll be back probably with another one at some point soon. Go back and listen to my knowledge review of Gran Turismo. We've got a couple more top 10s coming your way. We're going to do top 10 actors towards the end of the month and top 10 critical darlings that you hate. Those films that everyone else say are good, but you think are absolute tripe. Well, because they are. And we will catch you next time.
Peace out.
Yeah.